Hey, hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about a very interesting topic for me, which is how do you get your churned users back? Uh, a lot of times I keep hearing from people that this is the new tool, how you can get more send more push notification. You can send these type of emails, these type of SMS. You can send a notification from WhatsApp, and a lot of time in this whole chaos of sending a communication to a churned user is the whole focus. I feel like sending something to people who have churned from your product, uh, that's I think 5% of the work. The 95% of the work is first trying to understand why the user has churned in the first place. I think, and second point is, of course, trying to understand what kind of pitch might work to bring them back. Do you need to create certain different products for them or improve your existing product? But let's talk about the improvements and what pitch you should make to your churned users in a few minutes. Let's first focus on why do people churn. Now, when we say, hey, I have churned users, you need to be particular about what kind of churned users are you talking about. Are these users who installed your app and they did not even use it for the first time and they churn? Or did these users used your app for some time and then they stopped using your product, right? Or these are the customers who used to seldom use your app and then have stopped using. So I would bucket this as first kind of customers which have never used your app for the base business action, the aha moment. So people who did not even hit an aha moment on your app and they churn. I would call them the onboarding churn. Now, there will be some users who must be casual users of your app, right? For example, if you have a food delivery app, then a user typically using it once in a month is a casual user, right? However, for a similar food delivery app, if a user is using the app for say 5 to 10 times in a month, I think they are pretty much core or close to power users, right? On a broad or average level. Now, you would solve differently for different users, right? First of all, you look at what is the difference between a user who churned even before onboarding, right? So the person did not even take the first action. What's the difference between people who took that action and people who did not take that action, right? When I talk about difference, what will you look at? First of all, you look at what is their demographics, what is the devices, age, gender, buckets, city that they belong, kind of behavior that they exhibit on the app, kind of events, that kind of pages that they visited inside the app or the website. I will also start looking at where did you acquire those users from and start understanding, okay, did you do a paid acquisition campaign that actually accelerated a lot of user acquisition during that period, but a lot of users actually did not do the first action. So might be your performance creative was not at par on creating that perceived value about your product, right? That might be the reason for the onboarding churn. Now let's talk a little bit about the casual and the power user churn, right? Now, when you talk about a user who has been using your app for a while and they started churn, there can be broadly 3 to 4 hypotheses that would come up. First is they found a better service than your product. Second is they had a bad experience with the product. They imagine you were taking an Uber ride and the driver was drunk, right? And of course, it will be a pretty bad experience for you, specifically if you're traveling at night, right? So that might shift you from Uber to Ola, right? Or the reverse way. The third type of churn I would say is the pricing constraint churn. For example, people used to have a specific perceived value about your product at a particular price. So your perceived value of the product was higher than your previous price. But after a while, say for example, you did a pricing change. Imagine you are Netflix and you typically charge 500 rupees per user for 4 screens. And you increased your pricing from 500 to say 1,000, right? Now you had a perceived value in your mind about what Netflix is and how much Netflix do you consume in a month, and you started correlating that with a 500 and 1,000. But a lot of users will think, hey, this is not worth 1,000, and they will stop using your services. So we looked at 3 reasons broadly. There are hundreds of reasons why people churn, and every business has its unique parameters why people churn. But I'm just trying to address 3 of them. First is the pricing changes. Second, they found a better service. Third, they don't need you anymore, right? For example, if it's let's assume that, right? it's a nobroker.com, right? Now, if I don't need another apartment, I will churn. So that's a natural churn. But I'm not talking about natural churn. I'm talking about something like, you know, I'm talking about, say, I use Swiggy 5 times a month, and I got a full-time maid who works on who cooks the whole food for all 3 times. I don't need Swiggy anymore, right? But why did I take that decision? Something that Swiggy need to look at it, right? So they need to understand, okay, maybe people don't want to eat outside food continuously in India. They might need, home cooked meals on Swiggy. So if that option would have been there, I might have not churned, right? Now, you would have to look at your individual B2C and B2B products. Try to understand basic 3 things. First, try to understand your users really well, and difference between users who are not churned versus people who are retained. People who are churned versus people who are retained. Second, try to understand what's the difference between the actions taken by these users, right? Third is try to understand, is there an external factor that's impacting your existing customers? For example, if you are Swiggy and if you have another competitor in place, is your product not superior than the other product? What are the things that you need to improve to actually fix your existing product or launch additional features so that you keep evolving your perceived value of your product? Now, that's what we talked about, diagnosing a churned user problem. Now, let's talk a little bit about how do you approach, sending something to a churned user. A lot of time, and I think I addressed this at the start of the video, is a lot of time people think, hey, let's send them a WhatsApp message. Let's send them hundreds of drip emails. Let's send them so many push notifications that people stop using their phones, right? And that's not the right way to look at it. First, I would look at what is the context. For example, if I'm a food delivery app and I want to churn users to come back, I will go. So let's assume that a casual or a core user has been using, say Swiggy. Let's take Swiggy's example, right? And I wanted to resurrect that user. I wanted to get the user back. The user has stopped using my app. Now, first step that I'll possibly do is look at all the past history of that customer and what orders have they been placing. Say, for example, if I find a coffee order on a Monday morning, right? Or a coffee order anytime in office hours. Now, first thing I'll start looking at is there a pattern of all the churn users who have a coffee order done? Now, second step, I'll look at it. What time typically in the hour of the day and day of the week do they order coffee? Third is I'll start understanding which restaurants do they typically order from, right? Once I know who are these users, when do they order, and from where do they order? The next step is understanding, okay, I'll create a cohort of users who order typical coffee during office hours to their office locations from, say, Starbucks. I will pick out that cohort and send a customized communication to them. For example, on a Monday morning, 10 a.m., I will send them a communication saying, hey, your coffee shot for this Monday from Starbucks is here, and maybe sweeten the deal with a particular coupon code. Now, this might be useful to get users back who have forgotten about your app, right? But imagine if they had a bad experience from your app. You might need to do a very different solutioning than just giving a coupon. Giving a coupon is just solving for the short term, not really solving for the consumer experience. That could be one of the ways. Second could be, for example, if you have a set of users who are super pissed at you and moved on to some other app. Now, let's say how many users of these churned user base have actually shifted to a next product. Now you need to figure out what is your right to win from a product feature perspective between your competitor and you, right? And try to pitch in that particular aspect. For example, if it's, let's assume that people have stopped using Google search for finding a particular item because they go to Amazon and they directly start searching about a particular product that they want to buy. So here it's basically that same user who was searching on Google has churned from Google search. Now I know this is a long short example, but bear with me for a few seconds. So for example, that user has been using Google search to search a particular tech product, let's say a headphone, right? And that same user is now using direct Amazon app or website to search for the product. And that user is churned from Google search. Now, how would you go about, what's your right to win? What's the right to win for Google search? Now, Google search can collate not just reviews and pricings on Amazon sellers but they can also collate a lot of pricing and different shipping durations and different add-ons to that product, because Google has access to almost every seller out there. So that's their advantage. Now, if they wanted to pitch, now, of course, on search, you won't pitch it. But for example, people who are searching for similar stuff, if you wanted to pitch something to these users, you would say that you can compare a lot more than what you can compare on Amazon. So comparison of pricing and comparison of added features can be the right to win for Google search. Now, think about similar cases for your own app and only communicate to your users when you have a specific thing to say. Try to understand, contextualize, and personalize the communication to them. And when I say personalize, don't overdo it, right? Make sure that you have some data backed hunch that these users might take an action when you do a specific communication. The last thing I'm going to talk about is communication channel. Typically people, typically marketers do a lot around emails, push notification, SMS. I would say look at what is the preferred channel for certain user. For example, Abhishek is a person, does not look at push notification at all. I actually mute push notification from every app out there except WhatsApp and few of the work apps. Now, if you wanted to reach me, push notification not the right way because you will never get me. So you need to figure out how many people of your cohort which you have studied, you have created a pitch for them, and you want to now send that pitch to them. How many of them are actually available and receptive on that channel? So what essentially I'm saying is your strategy has to be channel agnostic. You're going to a user where they are captive and there's a higher probability that they will take an action. That's how you should tackle this. I hope this helped you in some or the other way. If you have any questions, drop those in the comments. Of course, I'm going to also put my YouTube channel, the GrowthX YouTube channel link here. So go there, subscribe. These videos typically release first on YouTube, and then we upload these on LinkedIn. See you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.